Texas Tech men's basketball is just under 50 days away, which means tip-off for year number 1 of the Grant McCasland era is just about set to begin. The Big 12 schedule for the Red Raiders has officially been announced. We'll take a look at every game and give you an early record prediction for the Red Raiders and the toughest men's basketball conference in America in today's video. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast, and basketball season is just around the corner. Be sure you hit that subscribe button and like the video if you're excited for year number 1 of Grant McCasland out in the 806. A lot of new faces, but hey, you still got Pop Isaacs around, Lamar Washington, some familiar faces, but a lot of new ones as well. Before we get started on that front, let me know, do you think Texas Tech will make the NCAA tournament this season? Again, I know we're talking about predictions here, and that's kind of what we're doing in today's video to some degree, but I want to hear from you guys about the ultimate prediction in terms of making the big dance for the Red Raiders. Do you think it happens? Just give me a simple Y for yes or in for no down in the comments below. And before we get too far into today's video, be sure to go see my friends over at homefieldapparel.com. Listen, you can save 15% on your new favorite Texas Tech men's basketball shirt. You see mine on the screen right there. That old Raider red just shooting the guns off. Chef's kiss. You can go over there and find your new favorite Texas Tech men's basketball shirt and save 15% while doing it, all with the code BACK212 over on homefieldapparel.com. All right. Let's jump into really what I think is one of the more interesting aspects of college basketball in terms of the schedule, right? Like, how does this break down? Because I think that there can be those spots in there, right, where you're like, oh, I think Texas Tech could go 3-0 here, or, oh, man, this is going to be a brutal stretch. Let's run through this together as we'll pop it up on the screen right now. You start down at Texas, at the Moody Center on January 6th on Saturday. Listen, I don't love it. I'll be honest with you. I probably would give that a loss to the Red Raiders right there. I think Texas is a really good team. I know Ron Holland isn't there, but they're still a really, really good team, are the Longhorns. So I think Texas Tech probably starts the season 0-1 in conference play. Then you move on and you face Oklahoma State at home. We know it is hard to win at home in the Big 12, specifically out in the 806 at the USA, right? Give me the dub there for the Red Raiders. I like Oklahoma State and what Boykin has done, but I just think, again, they're going to protect home court, are the Red Raiders at a high level, and I think they do so their first opportunity in Grant McCasland's first Big 12 game as the Red Raiders head coach. Then the most interesting game early on in the schedule for me, right? Because I think Kansas State is obviously a good team. They went to the Elite Eight last year. There's a lot to like about Jerome Tang's unit, and there's some familiarity with Grant McCasland, and he got Perry there as the starting point guard, presumably, for the Wildcats, right? So you come in, do the Wildcats to the 806. Students will be back. It's a mid-afternoon game. You're going to know quite a bit from your team right here early on. This is the game I think that's going to tell you what kind of team you have in the Big 12 if you're Grant McCasland and crew. I really like Kansas State. Again, though, I am going to pick Texas Tech to win at home. And again, I just am picking Texas Tech because it's in Lubbock, right? And that is a big factor for me. You go down to Houston. I think you lose to the Cougars there. You're 2-2. I think you beat BYU at home. I think BYU is a solid team, but I do think Texas Tech should win at home once again. That would make them 3-0 at home, 3-2 overall. Then you go to Norman. Oklahoma is one of the more interesting teams in the conference to me. I think that they're very close to Texas Tech, and Texas Tech has had some issues playing at Lloyd Noble in the past. It's just interesting to me on this front, and I'm probably going to say Texas Tech loses this one and moves to 3-3, 500 in the Big 12 slate. Then you go to Texas Tech East, a.k.a. TCU, for a midweek game against the Fighting Jamie Dixons. I think TCU is really freaking good. I know they lost Mike Miles. Mike Miles is a great player. There's no way around it. But I think TCU has done a phenomenal job of coming in and really getting guys that can come in and play right away in Jamie Dixon's scheme. I'm going to take TCU to win that game. out in Fort Worth, so Texas Tech moves to 3-4. Cincinnati, a team that I really like long-term. They are doing a great job on the recruiting front. This is not going to be an easy game, people. Cincinnati is a solid up-and-coming team in the Big 12. That being said, where is it? It's in Lubbock. Give me the Red Raiders on this one. Baylor. Texas Tech heads out to Waco for a midweek game against Baylor. Baylor will be one of those top 4 or 5 teams in the Big 12 this season. I think Texas Tech loses this one and moves to 4-5. Remember, last season, Texas Tech, only 5 wins in conference. So if they did beat UCF, which I have them doing on Saturday, I think they matched their season win total for conference play right there and are 5-5 in the conference. This game is always going to be fun. You think about it last year, the phantom no-call trip on Pop Isaacs, where he unfortunately got a concussion on the play, probably would have given Texas Tech a win against the top 3 Kansas team. And who knows if Texas Tech makes the tournament at that point, right? You think about where Texas Tech could have been. Now they come in. I think Kansas is really, really good this year. They are the clear-cut number 1 team in the conference, in my opinion. I'm going to pick the Jayhawks to win this one on a Monday night out in the 806. I really like Iowa State quite a bit. What TJ has done up there in Ames cannot go understated in how fast he's done it. They got a 5-star recruit on their team. They also went out and hit the portal pretty well, and they returned some guys. So I really like what they're doing. Again, this game is on the road up in Ames, a place that Texas Tech has struggled at 11 a.m. nonetheless for tip-off. Give me the Cyclones in this one. Okay, so now we look at it. Again, you look at the overall record. You win this one against Oklahoma State. You're 1-1 since you lose to Texas. 2-1, 2-2, 3-2, 3-4, 3-5, 4-5, 4-6, 5-6, 5-7, 5-8, and I think you beat TCU in the split, so you're 6-8 now. Now you go to Orlando. I just don't know if UCF is any good. So I think Texas Tech gets a road victory here, actually, and they move to 7-8 on the year. Then you get Texas at home. I truly believe you split with the Longhorns. I really do. So you're 8-8 right there, but then I think you lose in Morgantown. I think you lose in Stillwater, and unfortunately, I think you lose in Lubbock to Baylor. When you look at it again, I think that there's a lot of ways to look at it, right? I think Texas Tech honestly is going to be kind of in that similar situation that they were last year in terms of a bubble team all year long. And we'll talk about a little bit more in depth why I think that in later videos. But right now, looking at it, my instant reaction looking at the schedule is Texas Tech probably wins in the neighborhood of 7 to maybe 8 Big 12 games, right? And now a lot has to go their way, because if you lose a guy like Warren Washington to an injury, I think it could potentially snowball. But as it stands right now, I'm not a guy to project injuries, okay? That's not what I do. I think the current landscape of Texas Tech and the guys you got on this team, and the guy that you need to watch most, if you're watching the end of this video, you're getting a little tidbit here. I talked to multiple people about it. The guy you need to watch most in terms of maybe he's better than people thought is Darrion Williams, okay? You got Pop, you got Warren, you got Darrion Williams. Those are going to be your 3 best players this year for Texas Tech men's basketball, right? And don't forget, you got Devan Cambridge, and then you got Joe Toussaint late in the portal as well. So looking at what Texas Tech has right now in the best men's basketball league in America, I think they're a bubble team. Now, again, you guys have to let me know, will Texas Tech make the NCAA tournament this year? Simple Y for yes, and for no. Again, I think they probably win in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 Big 12 games this year. Is that enough to make the big dance? My gut says yes, but also at the same time, we know that some things don't go according to plan in the best league in America. That's just how it works out. One more time, if you haven't already, be sure to head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your new favorite Texas Tech men's basketball t-shirt and save 15% with the code BACK212. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay in the know on Texas Tech men's basketball all year long, less than 50 days away from tip-off of year number 1 of Grant McCasland out in the 806. I'm RC Maxfield. Smash that like button while you're at it too. And thanks for tuning in to the Back to 12 podcast channel.